100,000 entries of proxy logs that is capturing the HTTP response header. Okay. And from this 400,000, you wanted to figure out what are the possible, let's say, malicious file, for example. Malicious file, or let's say, let's say the malicious file, for example. So what I can do is in this 400,000 entries, I can just set up a filter where I will say filter equal to, filter will be something like this: content type not equal to HTML. Okay. So what will happen is that this will showcase me all those entries where the content type is not HTML. And maybe what I'm pretty sure is that we will be from 400,000, we might be only be analyzing, let's say, 20,000 entries. Okay. And in that case, let's say there was a malware that was getting downloaded via the malware. So let's say there was a downloader, malicious downloader. So when it get executed by the on the system, what it does is that it reaches out to the C2 URL and it requests for additional malwares. So let's say this is the work of the downloader, request for additional malware. And in that case, maybe the malware server is returning back additional malwares. Okay. So that it get executed on the system. Okay. So in that case, there's a high chance that the content type of that header will not be HTML, and that would kind of show up in the lower list, that is of the 20,000 list. And this is how kind of you can kind of do a mass investigation on the same tool. Yeah, go on.
Sir, where do we do this filtering, on the same tool or some other way?
Yeah, so there are two things. One is definitely if you have the proxy log, let's say you have downloaded that proxy log in your system itself. So you can just do a filter on that in a textual format. Okay, so that is one thing. So what I can do is, let's say I have this header with me. I have this header with me with the content type. I can just write I can just do a grep search over here. So let's say I have nano. Let me just quickly do that. How you can do that. So on a system wide, let's say I have a proxy log, proxy response dot log file. Okay. So let's say I have this proxy log file, and where I have something like, let's say, get header. Let me just quickly write that down. Let's quickly see how the header look like. So it's HTTP, something like this. So let me just copy this, and what I will do is paste. And let's say the content type is text HTML. Okay. And let's say you have copy, and let's say paste, and let's say here it is something else. Let's say it is binary, for an example. Okay. And let's imagine that you have this kind of files. You have downloaded the proxy log, and you have saved that in your own system. Okay, for an example. So if I just copy that, and if I just, what I do is that I just paste that. So let's imagine you have the log file. In your system. You download that in a system. So to search that, what you can do is that I can just do cat proxy response log. If I do that, it will showcase me the whole data of that log file. But if I want to filter out, I can just do cat log file, and then I can do grep. And then I will say, give me all the entries where there is a keyword, something like content type column binary. Okay. So if you do that, we'll get only those entries which will have that filled as binary, and it will kind of remove those fields which is like text or HTML. So this is an easy way. So if you have the log file downloaded on your own system, you can do by this. And if you have a, let's say you are using Splunk tool and you have one of the same tool and you have, let's say, the proxy response log file over there. So what you can do is that you can just, so let's say in the Splunk log, the query looks something like this. So type equal to proxy rest.log. So if you execute that in Splunk, you will get similar output. Okay. But if you in the Splunk log, if you just do something like, okay, if you do something like this, okay, if you do something like this, let me just, so in the Splunk log, if you do something like this, what will happen is that it will give you the output similar to this. Okay. So it depends where that proxy log is. So if you have downloaded that in your system, you can just quickly do a grep and do the filtering. Okay. Or if you have something like SIM logs, like the logs are like kind of transfer the SIM platform. You can, like, if the SIM platform, let's say, is a Splunk tool, so you can do similar something like this. Okay, you don't need to write something like graph and all. You just say, okay, source type is this, the log file, and then you are searching for this keyword. This is the keyword that you are searching for, and it will provide you the similar kind of output from there. Okay, so I hope this answers your question. Is there any other clarification you need on this one?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, okay, great. So now let's say, guys, so this is the content type that I was discussing about. And again, like, this is very, very important for you guys to kind of know whenever you are kind of doing any kind of investigation. Now, the next thing, let's say the content length. So the content length is another header. So this is the content length. So content length will tell me what is the content of the data that I'm highlighting over here. Okay. So the data that has been kind of sent out by the web server to me, it will tell me what the total byte of that content length. One thing I'm pretty sure is that length of the body content in bytes. So it is the length of the body content in bytes, and this is not a response header but an entity header. So what I mean by that is that this value 5186, I am possibly sure that it will be the length of the data that is sent out via the web server, which is this one, the HTML content, and it will not calculate the length of this headers. Actually, this 5186 shouldn't contain the length of this header plus this header. It will only contain the length of this one, the HTML code that you are seeing over here. Okay, so the length of the HTML code might be 5186. So let me just quickly see that. Okay, so if I just, let's say I just copy this, if I just copy this, and if I go to my terminal, let me just go to quickly to terminal. Okay, and let's say I just do clear and I do nano. I just save this file. Okay, so let's say I just save this file over here. I think there is some issues with the terminal itself.
Sir, in this bytes value, sir, when it
Yes.
comes to OSA layer, like in transport layer or in in network layer, there will be also a mention of the bytes value, right?
Yes.
So
No.
these,
Yeah, go on. First you go on.
sir, these byte values are same as like in the OSA layer, the bytes value. Or it will be different, sir. Like here you told that the header value will not be calculated in the content length. So in OSA layer also we have seen there will be some byte value will be for header values, and for the payload it will be having a different byte value. Is that the same, or it will differ when it comes to voice layer and this content length?
Okay, so first of all, guys, like this is a really, really good question.